On the chapter of mediums, chapter 14, we read 167 last week, seeing mediums, but we just continue reading because reading 168 without 167 may be a little bit confusing. And just a recap, now you're really dealing with mediumship, and Kardec, of course, has started to give us a general idea of what is a medium and varieties of the type of mediumship that exist amongst us. And again, just to recap, Kardec states that all of us are mediums in a sense that we all can interact with the spiritual dimension. We all can receive the thoughts of spirits. But in general, we reserve the word mediums for those who have a more ostensive ability to interact with the spiritual world. Those who are able to more clearly see, receive the thoughts, express those thoughts, hear, and some other things that we're going to read about in this chapter. So although we are all mediums, because we can all interact, we can receive the inspiration, the guidance of the good spirits as we are receiving now, as well when we put down our guards, when are not vigilant, we can also receive influence from not so good spirits as well. That makes us, in a sense, mediums. But you reserve those words for those who can more actively and more ostensively interact with the spiritual world. So I'm not going continue to be saying ostensive mediums. I'm just going to say mediums, and everyone understands that I'm saying ostensive mediums, okay? And the variety of mediums derives primarily from an organic disposition that the individual receives to be able to have that ability to have that open window to the spiritual world. It's something that we acquire, that is provided to us, that you're already born with, that we cannot create for ourselves, but can and should be educated for those who have the seed of it, as we're going to see soon, I hope. And mediumship can be expressed in many different ways. Kardec put a list over here in this chapter. Physical effects mediums, we went extensively over that. Mediums who are able to donate a substance called ectoplasm that allows spirits to use that substance and perform phenomena that is perceived by our physical senses. It is physical phenomena because we can receive, perceive, see it with our physical senses, our physical eyes, our physical ears. So when the phenomena happens, everyone in that place will be able to see it. Ostensive mediums or the general population will see it. And then the others you qualify more as an intelligent phenomenon because it affects primarily the perispirit senses. So only mediums with the same faculty will perceive the phenomena. Those around will not. So let's say a hearing medium may hear things from the spiritual world that the general population around that medium will not hear. The medium say, "Oh, I heard such and such things," and everybody will say, "What? Nobody else heard anything." Okay. And the great variety of mediums. Some are pseudo-mediums, are not really mediums, as Kardec explains, and we covered already, like electric persons, sensitive and impressionable mediums, that is kind of borderline. The sensitive and impressionable is more of a prerequisite for a more extensive mediumship. So Kardec lists everything here, but make sure that it goes to one by one and states for us, oh, this is a true mediumship. This is not really like the electrical persons, is not a mediumship. Sensitive and impressionable is more of a prerequisite for a more extensive mediumship, and then it goes to hearing, speaking, seeing, somnambulistic, uh, healing, and then he closes with cinematographical mediums. I don't know if we'll be able to get to that today. We covered everything, and we are now in the topic of the seeing mediums. Unfortunately, cannot go back and try to break everything down again. But if anyone is going to join us now, I wish they go back and read the chapter up to 167, catch up, because it's a continuation. It's important to know. So right there, I think I can see it.
No, she's not. Philip is there.
Philip, are you able to read for us, Philip?
Sure hope so.
I trust him. I have faith in you, man.
It's one of us.
Let's go
Seeing
to
mediums,
okay.
167. Seeing mediums are those gifted with the ability to see spirits. There are those who enjoy this faculty in a normal state, who are perfectly awake and who retain a precise memory of what they have seen. Others display it only in the somnambulistic state or in one close to somnambulism. This faculty is rarely permanent, since it is almost always the result of a sudden and temporary crisis. In this category of seeing mediums, we may include all individuals gifted with second sight. The ability to see spirits while dreaming is also a kind of mediumship, but does not comprise seeing mediumship per se. We have explained this phenomenon in Chapter 6, Visual Manifestations. Like those with second sight, seeing mediums believe they see through their eyes, but in reality, it is their soul who sees, which is why they can see either with their eyes closed or open. Thus, a blind person can see spirits as well as someone with normal sight. It would be interesting to perform a study on this issue to see if this faculty is more frequent among the blind. Spirits who have lived on the earth as blind individuals have told us that through their soul they have a perception of certain objects and that they were not immersed in total darkness after all.
Okay, so seeing mediums. If you see spirits and everyone around you is not seeing, if in a group, in a room or a mediumistic meeting, one of the members of the meeting reports that there is a spirit over here that is dressed some way, that appears to be angry or something, and is the only one seeing that spirit. That is someone with ability of go beyond the physical eyes and see with the perispiritual senses. It's seeing a medium, it's seeing a spirit. If there is an interaction with that spirit that individual is seeing, and the medium then serves as an intermediary passing information to the rest of the group, we're going to say that it's a medium, it's a seeing medium. If there is another individual who is, I don't know, walk on the street, Fifth Avenue, and is able to see spirits, and it does happen, but they see spirits just as when we all walk on Fifth Avenue and see incarnate, we do not interact, we don't care, we don't talk to them, they don't talk to us. That we're not really gonna call a mediumship. We're gonna call a second sight. It still has that open window. It still has that organic disposition that allows them to see things that pertain to the spirit dimension, but does not act as a medium. So we're going to say that as a second sight. The individual may be aware of it, the individual may not be aware of it. The individual may spend entire life seeing mediums and think they see an incarnate individual as they walk down the street and when they sit on the subway and there is an spirit sitting over there and they think there's a real person because of lack of knowledge. We're going to call that second sight. I have to say, I'm going to read that, that those things kind of intermingle among themselves. The second sight and the mediumship have of course, common denominators, and the person with ability of second sight can be a medium as well when it performs as a medium. Okay, so it's very hard to put a very black and white distinction of those things, but it's important for us to know and keep in mind that mediumship is a process of intermediation between two planes of existence. If you want to just see or just hear with no interaction, it is still a spiritual phenomenon, but does not comprise mediumship per the definition that we use in spiritism. Okay? The fact that individuals with no ability to see with the physical eyes, blind individuals, can see spirits is an evidence of this faculty of seeing mediums. Because what their physical eyes cannot perceive, the spiritual senses are able to perceive if they have that disposition. It's obvious, but I just have to make sure that everyone understands that not every blind individual is a seeing medium. Not every blind person sees spirits, okay? Those who have that organic disposition, those who have that kind of mediumship will see. The fact that someone is blind doesn't mean that they are also seeing mediums, okay? It's obvious, just want to make sure that. All right, is there any question, comment here?
Yes, I have a question. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
If we were to go back to the first paragraph, at the beginning of 167, I don't, can you scroll up a little bit so I can?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't understand when Kardec says that this faculty of being a seeing medium, it's a result of a sudden and temporary crisis. What does he mean by that?
Okay, very, very good. I actually put a mark over here to say the word crisis, and I missed the point. Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
What Kardec calls crisis, or was translated to English as crisis, but I think that's what he used in French as well. I prefer or use the word trance. So this faculty is rarely permanent, since it's almost always the result of a sudden and temporary crisis. State of trance. A mediumship requires a state of trance. A state of trance, a trance means, we're going to use the word trance here as an altered state of consciousness. So you are not in a full state of consciousness. Now this trance has degrees of intensity. It can be very low intensity that you perceive that you are in a trance. What could be very deep trance that anyone who sees that medium, that sense that the spirit is in a deep sleep or even a state of coma. So deep is the trance. So what Kardec calls over here crisis is a state of trance. And what says that in order to be a mediumship, you're not gonna live in a permanent state of trance, even if it's a very low, very minimal trance. Okay? And it may come sudden or temporary. Temporary, it's during mediumship meetings when we have a preparation to start the meeting and we mentalize, we are in the start of meditation, the mediums with the ability of that faculty goes in that period of trance that may last throughout the mediumship meeting, an hour or so. It's temporary. At the end of the meeting, we say we finish, we make our prayers, and it's finished, it's done. It's not a state of trance anymore. So it's not a perpetual state. It's not a permanent state, which will differentiate also of what the second site, where these individuals may see things even outside of the state of trance. It happens to them very, very easily that there is no trance per se. But again, those things are very interchangeable. It's very, very hard to put a black and white. There is that gray area over here in which to differentiate what is a seeing mediums and a person that be your second sight may not be very easy to distinguish. And I don't think it's so important to make that black and white distinction as well. Did I answer it?
Yes, you did, Elmo. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. I mean, those questions are important because I put a mark over here on the circle the word crisis because it's very important to make that clear. Thank you. Uh, 168, if no more questions.
168. We must distinguish between accidental and spontaneous apparitions and the actual faculty for seeing spirits. The former most frequently occur at the time of death of loved or known individuals who have come to serve, warning that they no longer belong to this world. There are numerous examples of such cases, not to mention those that occur as visions during sleep. At other times, they are relatives or friends who, although dead for quite some time, appear to warn us of danger, to provide counsel, or to ask a favor, which normally consists in carrying out some kind of service that they could not complete while alive, but which may also entail prayers. These apparitions comprise isolated events and always have an individual and personal character about them. Consequently, they do not comprise a faculty per se. The faculty itself consists in the ability, if not permanent, at least quite frequent, to see any spirits at all, even those who are completely unknown. This faculty is what defines the seeing medium, properly speaking. Among seeing mediums, there are those who see only evoked spirits, who can describe in the smallest detail their gestures, facial expressions, the characteristic outline of their face, their clothing, and even the feelings they express. There are others who possess the faculty in a more generalized sense, who see the entire surrounding spirit population going and coming, and we might say, going about their daily business.
Thank you. In this chapter, in this passage, Kardec's trying to tell us that It may happen in everyone's life if we live long enough, if we allow ourselves to go to those things, that we may have encounters with spirits, see those spirits, perhaps even hear those spirits without being an ostensive medium. And that is the importance of understanding that we are mediums in a sense that we can interact with the spiritual world. We can receive inspiration from the spiritual world. And therefore, there are times in our life, even as not ostensive mediums, that we may experience a more intense interaction with the spiritual world. And we may see spirit in those events. Okay, and Kardec puts over here these apparitions. We call it an apparition. It doesn't call it a mediumistic phenomenon. So the spirit appears, comprised of isolated events, and always have an individual or personal character about them. And this is very important. When those things happens to one of us, not ostensive medium, not medium of this faculty of seeing medium, we clearly see a spirit. This spirit is someone that is familiar to us, is someone to whom we have some degree of relationship, some very often a more strong kind of relationship. Okay, and happens very often in case of near death. The books of André Luiz shows those kind of examples. A case of one woman who was near discarnation, was going to expire in the morning. At the night before, she was able to go in and out of bed place event, go through I believe a niece that she loved very much, or sister, I don't remember exactly, and present herself. And in the morning, when this woman woke up, she said, "Oh, my aunt have passed away," with absolute certainty. And that niece or sister, I don't remember.
It was sister.
Yeah, it's not. Thank you, Ron. It was not a seeing medium, and we all can experience that. The degree of interaction between those two individuals are so strong that it will augment the mediumist potential of us. In one rare event in our lives, it may happen to one of us. That does not make us an ostensive medium, does not make us seeing medium. It just tells that we experience that event once or twice in our lifetime. To be considered a seeing medium, it has to be more consistent. And very important, it has to be with, let's say, or the spirits beyond the ones that are very close to us. If a medium reports that they only see, a grandma or grandpa and nothing else, it's at least it's questionable. At a minimum, it's questionable, because I've seen medium where you see a population of spirits, the ones that he or she knows, the ones that he or she doesn't know. There are spirits, there are mediums that will naturally work in mediumship meetings. If you have a vocation, it's because you are working a mediumship meeting. It may be a spiritist mediumship meeting or not. Okay, maybe other kinds of work done with mediumship outside of spiritism. And during those evocations, there will be a medium over there who will see the spirits evoked. There are mediums who will be able to tell with very clear details everything about that spirit, the kind of clothes, the facial expression, if they are angry, if they are not angry, just by the way they look, with extreme details. And there are other things who see things more in fog way of saying, not be able to give you very clear details. But if a medium declares they only see this or that spirit, it's a red flag. That's as far as aggressive I want to be say here. It's a red flag because a seeing medium will see a variety of mediums, of spirits. I'm sorry. Okay. 169. If no questions.
169. On one particular evening, we were watching a performance of the opera Oberon while seated beside an excellent seeing medium. A large number of the seats were empty, but many were occupied by spirits who seemed to be watching the performance. Some were sitting close to various audience members and seemed to be listening in on their conversations. On the stage, another scene was occurring. Behind the performers, several jovial spirits were having fun pantomiming them, grotesquely imitating their movements. More serious spirits, however, appeared to be inspiring the singers, supporting them by giving them more energy. One of these stayed next to one of the principal female singers. We judged its intentions as rather frivolous, and after the curtain closed, we invoked it. Upon responding to us, it severely reproved our rash judgment. I am not what you think. I am her guide, her protector spirit, and it is my responsibility to direct her. After a few minutes of very serious conversation, it left us saying goodbye. She is in her dressing room, and I must watch over her. We also evoked the spirit of Weber, the opera's composer, during the performance and asked him what he thought of it. It isn't bad, he responded, but weak. The performers sing, but that is all. It lacks inspiration. Wait, he added, I shall try to infuse them with a little of the sacred fire. We then saw him hovering over the stage above the singers. An emanation appeared to flow from him to them, enveloping them at that moment. There was a visible resurgence of energy amongst them.
Okay. So this is a case that Kardec used just to illustrate what is a seeing medium. And from here, we grasp a better understand of how Kardec goes about understand the process and utilizing all the opportunities to learn more about the phenomenon of mediumship. Being in places with mediums of different faculties, different places, demonstrated the faculty itself and brings proof of the phenomenon without doubt. So going to a theater to watch an opera, there is a seeing medium, and by definition, as we read before, the seeing medium would be in a state of trance, in a temporary crisis. However minimal or deeper, we imagine there would be a very low state of trance for them to be able to enjoy the show itself. And I open a parenthesis, I don't know how those mediums would really be able to enjoy the show, and there is seeing all those spirits doing other things beyond the show itself. But there is that medium with ability to see, not really interacting up to a point, but seeing the spirits in the stage. Some trying to mimic and play and have fun with the actors and actresses and the singers, and some trying to help the actors, the singers to perform. So there's a variety of spirits over there, those trying to improve the quality of the work, and some not trying to help at all. I don't know if doesn't declare over here if they are disturbing, doesn't appear to be disturbing, but there could be disturbances as well, right? That declares, that shows what is a seeing medium, right? Those spirits has nothing to do with them. It's not relative. It's not. They don't have any real relationship. The individual is being able to see. Can we solve a second sight because it's just seeing what's there? One could, but at the moment that they bring them about, they invite them for a conversation. Now it's acting as an intermediary, right? So we can say that it's a seeing medium. Again, words as a science has to have nomenclature, and we use the nomenclature, although those words may be hard to separate from time to time. So this shows how active Kardec was, always doing his work of understand the interaction of spirits and us, and being able to put out those books for us, and shows clearly what is to be a seeing medium. The details of the Weber, of the individuals there to help or not to help, it's just to demonstrate the seeing medium, and doesn't require any comment, as I think. Unless anybody has any questions regarding the guardian angel or those things. If not, I can proceed.
170.
Yes, please.
Here is another event that proves the influence that spirits exert upon humans without their knowing about it. We were watching a theatrical performance like the other one, but with another seeing medium. While we were conversing with a spirit spectator, it told us, "Do you see those two ladies by themselves in that box in the first tier? Well, I'm going to make them leave the theater." He then entered the ladies' box and began to talk to them. They had been attentively watching the show when they suddenly looked at each other, seemed to consult each other, then left and did not return. The spirit then gave us a merry gesture, meaning that he had fulfilled his word, but we did not see him again to ask him for more explanations. In this manner, we have often been witnesses of the role that spirits play among the living. We have observed them in many places where people gather: dances, concerts, sermons, funerals, weddings, etc. And everywhere we have found them stimulating evil passions, inciting discord, inciting disputes, and rejoicing in their exploits. Others, on the contrary, fight this harmful influence, but they are rarely listened to.
So in this paragraph, Kardec is like his open parenthesis and say, by the way, since we are talking about seeing mediums, I just want to let you guys to see that using that kind of mediumship, seeing mediums, you can also see here the evidence, very clear evidence of the influence that the spirits exert upon humans without their knowledge about it. It's just like I'm using the opportunity over here. This is not really the topic of studies, but look how spirits can really influence our lives without our knowing it. I think particularly that it's important to note that the spirit with whom they were talking to, Assim saw that spirit. Assim saw that spirit, and I have to assume that that same medium, or perhaps there was another medium there, was able to interact and have the conversation with the spirit. And I've told you, see those two ladies over there? And I think it's important to know that it's these two ladies over there. It's not any other person. So there is something about those two ladies that spirit noticed, or that spirit was already familiar with. It's not saying over here, but there was two things about those two ladies that allowed that approximation of the spirit, that allowed the spirit to interact with those women and influence them to leave the theater. And I think that's important, parents, to over here do not think that spirit could do that to anyone inside of the theater. Well, so think about those two women that allow that affinity with the spirit, that allow the spirit to place their thoughts in their mind to leave the theater, and they did so. I think Alex just used the opportunity to remind us of how spirits influence our lives, and by the use of a seeing medium, it can bring the evidences of that influence of spirits upon us. Comments, question? Okay, what's everyone?
The faculty for seeing spirits can undoubtedly be developed, but it is one of those whose development should proceed naturally without being artificially stimulated in order to avoid being exposed to illusions of the imagination. When we possess the seed of a faculty, it will sprout by itself. As a rule, we should be content with the abilities that God has granted us and not seek the impossible, because if we want even more, we run the risk of losing what we already have. When we mentioned that the cases involving spontaneous apparitions frequently occur, we did not mean that they are very common. Those, next page, please.
Yeah.
Involving mediums per se are even rarer, and we have many reasons for distrusting those who claim to have the faculty. One is prudent not to trust them without positive proof. We are not referring to those who feed the ridiculous illusion of globular spirits, which we describe in number 108, but those who claim to see spirits in a more rational manner. Some persons could undoubtedly be sincere, though mistaken, but others may stimulate the faculty out of vanity or for ulterior motives. In judging such cases, we must pay special attention to the person's character, morality, and sincerity. However, it is especially in the details of the circumstances that we find the surest means of appraisal. There are circumstances that can leave no doubt. Such are those involving exact descriptions of spirits whom the medium never had the opportunity to know when they were incarnated. The following case belongs to this category. A widow lady whose late husband frequently communicated with her, met a seeing medium one day who did not know her or her family. The medium said to her, "I see a spirit beside you." "Oh," replied the lady, "that is probably my husband, who almost never leaves me." "No," responded the medium, "it is a lady of a certain age who has a strange hairdo and who is wearing a white headband." Because of this particularity and other descriptive details, the widow fully recognized her grandmother, whom she had not even been thinking about at the time. If the medium had only been faking the faculty, it would have been easier to follow the widow's suggestion. But instead of the husband whom she had been thinking about, he saw a woman with a unique hairdo, of which he could have had no idea. Moreover, this case proves that what the medium saw was not a reflection of any outside thought.
Sure.
I'm
That's it.
so I'm
I'm sorry.
where do I start reading?
Oh, that's it for now. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. I just went back to the beginning
you
of
went back.
471.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Um, Microdeck says over here, the faculty of seeing music can undoubtedly be developed. We can use the word educated instead of developed. Developed is fine. But my point is, and Kazakh declares that right after, is that or you have it or you don't have it. Or you have that organic disposition or you don't. Or you have that seed or you don't. Okay? You can't artificially produce it. We can have events of seeing mediums occasionally, as we just spoke about. We can place ourselves in a state of trance outside of mediumistic trance, by use of chemicals. LSD is very good to produce this kind of trance if anyone is interested, but I would say don't do it, but very high fever can place on a state of trance. So there are other ways that we can go in that temporary, what Kardec called crisis state of trance, and we may be able to experience an interaction in the spiritual world, may be able to see spirits. Okay? Not necessarily being a medium. Because in order to be the medium, you have to have that organic disposition that is there, which Kardec says over here, when we possess the seed of a faculty, it will sprout by itself. If you don't have that seed, there is nothing to sprout. Except in cases or in which that mediumship, that very ostensive ability to interact with the spiritual world, in this case by seeing spirits, in some cases it may be a process of a expiation, which is a difficult expiation to go through. And in that case, the spirit doesn't have much control of it. In a sense, there's an expiation. You're going to have to go through this difficult process. And it's there, open wide for you. But in most of the cases, you have that seed that will sprout naturally, but can be educated, can be developed, can make it, you can make it better, especially when you're going to use it for good. Especially when you're going to use it, let's say in a leadership meeting that is educated, that has with the objective a sincere and desire to understand leadership itself, or is a work of charity to help assist needy spirits, and these needy spirits may be incarnate or discarnate, right? A seeing medium will be very useful. And that mediumship, that ability can be developed, can be educated, can be augmented, since you already have the seed. And you know, if you work on it, there's a chance of getting better. Some individuals may have that attribute, the ability to for music, but if you don't study music, if you don't pick up the instrument and practice consistently, pretty much going to waste that potential, right? And that is for many other things, including mediumship. And Kardec advises us not to try to put upon ourselves a burden, a weight that will be too much for our shoulders. Oh, I want to see spirits, I want to experience that one. It may be something that you're not ready for it, something that was not really a part of that that plan for this present incarnation. We have bigger fish to fries or something others to do that, leave this alone for now. But if you try very hard, if you force something there, you may, have a problem. I remember when Divaldo gave him one of his conference, he opened up a rest and told this case of he had this friend, that's one who used to go to the leadership meetings, not leadership meetings, I'm sorry, the meetings in his center in Mansão do Caminho. And the guy was always complaining and asking that he wanted to see spirit. Why people could see spirit and he could not see? And Divaldo telling him that you don't need to see spirit. You find where you are, you do the work that you do, you're doing good work, leave it alone. But the guy keeps complaining and I said that it's not fair. I want to see spirit, I want to see spirit, I want to see spirit. And Devout says that one day he was in the front of the mirror shaving, when he sees that figure behind him, sees through the mirror image, and he was absolutely scared to death that he even put pretty serious cut on his face because of it, and he ran to Devout. Oh my God, I saw this and it was horrible. And Devout told him, you see, you asked for you will work so hard to get something that was not good for you. That's what you get, and that's what Kardec's telling us here. If you have the seed, chances are that was provided to you for good use. Should we develop? Should we put it augment will make it better? Yes. Make sure that you use proper means of education. No, we would suggest as a spiritist to always use mirrorship with Jesus, which means with ascended moral values, with ascended moral goals. And then you'll be surrounded by spirits of the same moral qualities. And chances are, if you are to see it, you're going to see something that is pleasant. But if just out of curiosity, just out of pride, just out of envy, everybody sees and I don't. All right, you may get one experience and see something that is not also good. So don't try too hard to develop something that is not there for you. It comes to you naturally, educated, make it better, make good use of it. If it's not there, there's plenty of ways to educate oneself, to be good to others without mediumship. And and then he goes and bring another case to illustrate the case of people trying to force leadership upon themselves. And when he says previously that these apparitions are common, he didn't say that it's common, it's happening every week it's not that common. Okay, it doesn't happen so often. And we need to be discreet, we need to be selective of what we will consider being true mediumship or not so true mediumship. We should be careful to separate those who are just plain lying, whatever ulterior motive to us about that fake mediumship. Those who have not a true mediumship, I believe they do have. I mean, they are not really lying to us. They don't have an intention to gain anything to it, but they are a little bit confused, and that's what studies like this is very important. And when Kardec says, no, you're better off rejecting than truth than accept a lie. It applies very well in this case over here. Be careful what you take for mediumship that people are telling us around us. They may have malicious intention or may just be misunderstanding what mediumship is. That places us, personally speaking, I think here, in a little bit of conflictive situation. Because you don't want to be judgmental. You don't want to be judging people and no. But at same time, we need to be selective on what we take as truth and what we don't take as truth, what we're gonna put aside for now before accepting it. But it's something that we need to do. In one of the books on the Louise in Domains of Mediumship, actually in the chapter of Somnambulism, the somnambulic medium goes into the spiritual world and has an interaction with an ex-member of that mediumship medium who is now in the spiritual world. And that spirit is telling him with sadness the time that participate in the mediumship meetings, and he would have some kind of phenomena, experience some kind of mediumship phenomena that other members of the mediumship meeting would doubt him, would not believe him. And that was something difficult for him to deal with. It would naturally be difficult. So we don't go around doubting people's abilities, people's interaction with the spiritual world. But at the same time, we don't want to be taking everything as truth, which is a little bit conflictive. We know how to deal with these two things. Accept everything, do not accept everything, be very carefully, at the same time, don't be so judgmental. It's a work that each individual has to do. And my point here is, especially mediumship meetings, that is serious mediumship meetings, that is mediumship with Jesus or with the best intention to be with Jesus. Phenomena happen and thinking happens, and most of the time will not be judgment. Whatever the medium is present to us, we'll take as really happened. And not go over, so, oh, no, it's his or her imagination, it's this, it's that. No, we're not going to be judgmental about that. We're going to analyze what happens. If something that perhaps doubtful happens continuously with the same medium, then it may require attention or we think about. But what Kardec puts over here is a very serious thing of not taking everything as truthful before it passes to reasoning from us. But again, when we are in the proper environment around people with the true noble objectives of walking with Jesus, a lot of phenomena happens that could otherwise be doubtful, but in that environment, it's less likely to be doubtful because of the quality of the environment in itself. But could also happen, okay? And then he illustrates a case with this widow lady who is always interact with her deceased husband. I was always around her. A serious medium, seeing medium approached her and said, "There is a spirit next to you, lady." And the lady automatically says, "Oh, it's probably my husband. He's always with me." If it was a pseudo medium, if it was a medium, or if it was a person who was very rich imagination, with or without malevolent intention, would go along with the thought, "Oh yeah, he looks like your husband, and dad loves you very much," and go around. But this medium said, "No, it's nothing to do with your husband. It's an old lady with dressed this way," which is a very good evidence that there is a true, real seeing medium. that is not being influenced by the imagination, is not being influenced by what the other person is saying. No, what I'm seeing is A, B, C, and D. Clearly, you may be thinking of that, something else, does not allow to be influenced by someone else's thought, and that declares a true medium right then and there. It's just a case to illustrate. Because actually this case proves that what the medium saw was not a reflection of any outside thought. And this is important because the reflection of an outside thought, as we read in the beginning of this book, is one of the the arguments that people who do not believe in spirits, who do not believe in mediumship, would say that happens was it's not really mediumship, but it is that individuals may become very influenced by the reflection of other people's thoughts. Okay? Comments, questions?
Yeah, you have the case of Divaldo when he was a child, right? That he saw his grandma that he never met, and actually his mother never met because the grandmother died when his mother was born, and he describes her, well, the clothes that she was wearing, and then the mother calls the older sister, and the older sister said, "Yes, that's our mother, and that's the clothes that she was buried with." Which, Vivaldo as a child had no way of knowing, no idea, or you know, so again, it's the seeing medium.
With the richness of details, man, and remember that he says about the thing that was hanging on her chest, everything, the thing that she had on her hair, with a tremendous amount of details that the older sister was able to say, oh, it couldn't be anybody else but our mother. Now we're coming to the challenge. And we see here why somnambulism is a challenge, because it's, in my opinion, it is a very wide range of things that a somnambulistic medium have. Is there any question up to seeing mediums over here before I start the somnambulism? Because then we're going to really shift to something different. And it's very important that we keep in mind that we understand everything that we read before, because somnambulism kind of involves everything that I've seen so far, which makes somnambulism a little bit more complicated to understand. Okay, let's try to go slowly and try to break down somnambulism. Again, I'm going to make a differentiate of sleepwalking. That the same in Portuguese, or I believe in Spanish, there is just one word, somnambulism, for both. In English, or in American English at least, there is the walking, sleepwalking, when someone gets up and wants to do things in a very clear way, as if they were awakened. Get up and go to work, get up and put clothes on and go to the bakery to get bread. But it's indeed that person is sleeping. And even here there is a gray matter between the two as well. Okay? So let's go. 172.
Somnambulism can be considered as a variety of mediumistic faculty, or rather, we should say that these two types of phenomena are frequently found together. Somnambulists act under the influence of their own spirit. It is their own soul who, in moments of emancipation, sees, hears, and perceives beyond the limits of the senses. What they express proceeds from themselves. Their ideas are generally more correct than during their normal state, and their knowledge is broader since their soul is free. In other words, they live in anticipation of the spirit life. Mediums, on the other hand, serve as instruments for an outside intelligence. They are passive, and what they express is not their own. In some, somnambulists express their own thoughts, while mediums express the thoughts of others. However, the spirit who communicates through an ordinary medium might also do so through a somnambulist. Frequently, the same state of the soul's emancipation during somnambulism makes spirit communication easier. Many somnambulists see spirits perfectly well and describe them with the same precision as seeing mediums. They can converse with them and transmit their thought to us. Thus, what they say beyond the circle of their personal knowledge is almost always suggested to them by other spirits. The following is a notable example involving the simultaneous action of the somnambulist spirit and another spirit who reveals itself unequivocally.
Okay, thanks. Well, let's try to break down this a little bit here. Kardec saying clearly that we separated somnambulism or somnambulists from mediumship or mediumistic faculty, right? It says well, somnambulists can be considered a variety of mediumistic faculty. We should say that there's two types of phenomena, so his breaks clearly separate the two things, somnambulism and mediumship here. Two types of phenomena are frequently found together. They do coexist. On the same individual, maybe both. Very important to understand that. The class was that the somnambulists act under their own influence of their own spirit. I'm going to parentheses here and say somnambulism, go ahead of Kardec here for a little bit. That requires a deep state of trance, somnambulism, a deep state of crisis, as placed in this book. So you say that the trance, this altered state of consciousness, it may be very, very low intensity that perhaps the person not even perceive that he or she is in trance. In somnambulism, that degree of altered state of consciousness is very advanced, it's very deep. That's what allows them to be much further expansion of the perispirit, which makes them a lot more the interaction of the somnambulist in the spiritual world much deeper than common mediumship when they are not coexisting at the same time. It's one of the most profound states of expansion of the perispirit, mostly separated from the physical body, although never completely separated. You know, we all know that, right? And in that state of emancipation, the spirit is so free that it's able to retrieve informations, knowledges that it has that belongs to the spirit, but it's not being used on this present incarnation. It's not being used in this present incarnation. Kardec says over here that what they express proceeds from themselves. Keep that in mind. Again, because they are in such a deep state of emancipation of the physical body, they can easily retrieve or access knowledge, things that is beyond what is kind of allowed for them to use during this present incarnation. So I, eternal spirit, with many experiences as eternal spirit, now playing the role of Elmo, and I can only retrieve in my conscious state what's pertinent for these reincarnations, playing the role of Elmo, nothing more than that. But I know that as an spirit is eternal spirit with many previous reincarnations in the past, I have played different roles. I was Mary, I was Muhammad, I was Joshua, I was whatever name you think, right? Young, many different incarnations, likely in both gender, likely in different ethnicities. But right now, I can only say about Elmo. What can I retrieve is Elmo. If I have the ability of going into the somnambulistic trance, I may retrieve informations of an incarnation where I was a peasant woman in the, I don't know, in the Himalayas. I bring informations from that I do not possess in any conscious state. This is not really a mediumship because I'm taking what is my own. There's no interaction with other spirits. But it's interesting because when I'm in that stage, my expansion is so far from my physical body, and I'm really integrating the spiritual world, that it makes it very easy for me to interact with the spirits that are there in the spiritual world. And then I become a medium. I'm a medium in a somnambulistic state, trance. So I am a somnambulistic medium. You see what complicates a little bit, or a lot in my opinion, this topic of somnambulism. Is it mediumship? It's not. The two things are so well integrated that it may be just one, but very often there'll be associated is this togetherness, this point of intersection between the two things, right? Kardec clearly puts over here two types of phenomena. But then he says, are frequently found together. So if we define a somnambulism as this individual who has that ability to vary on a deep state of trance, and in that state of trance, go into the spiritual dimension. In a difference from medium without the somnambulistic state is the spirit comes to the medium. In the somnambulism, the somnambulic person goes to the spirit. Okay, now what creates a little bit of problem also here? Kardec states over here that in some, somnambulists expresses their own thoughts while medium express thoughts of others. Fact, state. Okay. And then he says over here, they can converse, an individual somnambulic state with them or the spirit and transmits their thoughts to us. So what is it? Do they express their own thoughts, as Kardec stated over here? Or no, the spirit can pass their thoughts to us? It's both, which makes them a somnambulistic medium, right? Because they are in the spiritual world, and there are spirits in the spiritual world. So they can pass their own thoughts or can pass thoughts of the other spirits that they may interact with. And that makes them, by definition, mediums, right? What they say beyond the circle of their personal knowledge is almost always suggested by other spirits. Now Kardec is telling me conflictive things. There is a confusion here. Is that their own thoughts or the thought of all the spirits? Answer is almost always. It makes it even more complicated to me, at least. But what Kardec telling us here is this. Now I am in a somnambulistic trance, and I'm able to retrieve knowledge that I do not possess, or that I do possess as an eternal spirit, but not being expressed in this present incarnation. Perhaps my last previous incarnation was a musician, and I was played the violin in a symphony orchestra. In this incarnation, I never put my hands on a violin. I cannot read musical notation to save my life, right? In a somnambulistic state, I may pick up a book of musical notations, pick up a violin and play it. Beautiful or not beautiful is subjective. I play because I do have that knowledge already. But as an eternal spirit, there's something that is being reserved, not being expressed in this reincarnation. So it's mine. I have it. And in a deep state of trance, I can retrieve it. But in a state of deep trance, in a somnambulic state, I may speak about architecture and how, I don't know, how the Romans build some aqueducts. And I never experienced that as an eternal spirit. I don't have that knowledge, but I'm talking about it. But how am I talking about something that I don't know? The way that it's happening is that there is a spirit right next to me who was a Roman engineering, and the Roman Empire was an engineer that was responsible for building aqueducts. The guy's an expert on the field, and he's passing this information for me. And I'm passing that information to others in the spirit, non-mediumship meetings, so to say. So I'm passing knowledge that is beyond the circle of my personal knowledge. And in this case, it can only be passed through me, suggested by other spirits. I hope that everybody got confused as I did, but everybody was able to now understand what Kardec is saying over here, how the two things coexist and must coexist to be a mediumship. Otherwise, it's not mediumship, there's no interaction. So there is a separation of somnambulism, the two types of phenomena, but frequently they form together. Any questions?
Yes, I have a general question about this faculty. Can somnambulism be expressed by someone in a waking state, or do they have to be asleep?
To be honest, I've been in a deep state of trance, not necessarily sleep. We also differentiate sleep from a mediumistic trance from a trance, because sleep is a normal phenomenon. It's not an altered state of consciousness. During sleep, a spirit may go through a somnambulistic trance. During the somnambulistic trance, it be so deep, and usually so deep, that it appears that the medium is at sleep, because it needs to be in a state of body inactivity, in which the physical body does not need the direct participation of the spirit, right? So it has to be in a sleep-like state. We're not going to call it sleeping, although you may go into a trance during the sleep, which
Okay.
complicates things a little more. But in order to had such a large an expansion from the physical body, we need to understand the body needs to be at rest, right? The body could, I mean, you could not be driving, you cannot be working, you cannot be doing any activity that requires the presence of the spirit right there. The body needs to be at rest.
Got it.
You're not going to call it sleep. You're going to call it a trance. Although you could go into a trance during your sleep, which makes things a little bit more fun for us to get really confused. That's a very important question. Did everybody understand that? Any questions on that? Okay, so it's 10 minutes. I think we can do 73 and 74 together. And you close the topic. Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
173. One of our friends employed as a somnambulist, a young boy of 14 or 15 years and of quite low intelligence and extremely limited education. In the somnambulistic state, however, he showed extraordinary lucidity and great astuteness. He displayed his abilities, particularly in the treatment of diseases.
Oh, sorry.
Having performed numerous healings that were otherwise considered incurable, one day, as he was attending a sick man, he described the illness with perfect precision. That is not enough, he was told. Now you must prescribe a remedy. I can't, he responded. My angel doctor isn't here. Who is your angel doctor? The one who prescribes the remedies. Then you yourself don't see the remedies. Oh no, didn't I just say my angel doctor prescribes them? Thus, in the case of this somnambulist, it was his own spirit who saw what the disease was, and it did not need any assistance. But the medical prescriptions were made by another spirit. If the latter was not present, the former could say nothing about them. By himself, he was only a somnambulist, assisted by whom he called his angel doctor. He was a somnambulistic medium.
Okay, next one. Oh, I have a change. Okay.
174. The lucidity of the somnambulistic faculty is one that depends on the organism, and so it is independent of the elevation, advancement, and moral condition of the subject. As a result, somnambulists may be very lucid, but incapable of resolving certain issues if their spirit is little advanced. Hang on one second. I'm reading online. Okay, now point to where I stopped, please. Little advanced. Where's little advanced?
The lucidity.
Fourth line. Somnambulists who speak by themselves.
Somnambulists who speak by themselves may therefore be good and bad, true or false things, and use greater or lesser delicacy and scruples in their procedures, depending on the degree of elevation or inferiority of their own spirit. In these cases, the assistance of another spirit may overcome their deficiencies. However, as is the case with mediums, somnambulists can also be assisted by lying, frivolous, or even evil spirits. This is where the somnambulist's moral qualities have an especially large influence in order to attract good spirits. See the Spirits book, section on somnambulism, number 425, and in this book, the chapter on the medium's moral influence.
Okay, thanks. During a somnambulic state, the spirit is in a deep trance. And I just said over here that the body needs to be in a state of rest for the spirit to expand itself so far, right? There are some special cases. In that deep trance, the spirit will make use of its own physical body to perform things. Okay. As an example, so there's the sleeping walking, which the things may mingle at times, okay? The spirit is in a deep state of trance, and the spirit decides that it's going to get up and pick up something. The spirit cannot pick up something in the physical world. The spirit can use his own body to go and pick up that thing, even though it's in a state of trance. It can use its own body to perform things in the physical world. It can get up and say, I'm going to go buy bread. And so on. The spirit, the brain doesn't want to get up and buy bread, but the spirit wants bread. The spirit uses its own physical body to buy bread, but in a state of trance. Okay, it's different than be awake. You get up to go buy bread, but the physical body, it's actually at rest. The brain is at rest, is acting under the influence of the spirit in a different way. Okay? Kardec used an example of this young boy that uneducated. Kardec says he had low intelligence and extremely limited education. But during a somnambulic state, it became an extraordinary lucidity and great astuteness. He was able to perform things using his own physical body that it was way, 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 way beyond his intellectual ability, such as make a diagnosis, and treatment. He could see the disease, he could see the damaged organ, and he could provide a treatment. Or everybody thought that was the case. And one specific day, he was doing only half of the work that he usually did. He was able to make diagnosis. He was able to tell what was wrong with the person, but was not able to provide a treatment. Or what you have is, I don't know, pancreatitis, because I see tremendous inflammation in pancreas, period. And then they would say, oh, wait a minute, how are we going to treat this pancreatitis? Now, you always provide the treatment together with the diagnosis. And then the spirit of this boy in a state of trance will say, oh no, but today I can't because my angel doctor is not here. So he, in a somnambulic state, he had the ability to expand himself, the perispirit, so far out that he could see things that could not be seen with the physical eyes. He could tell what was wrong. He was able, had the knowledge to see that the pancreas is inflamed. I can see it's swollen, it's red, it's whatever is the case, right? I didn't know how to treat. The treatment was provided by another person. The treatment was provided by what they call his angel doctor. And for that particular day, the angel doctor was busy somewhere else, was not present. So he could only tell what's wrong, but not the treatment. This is a somnambulistic medium because it is in a somnambulic state. It's able to retrieve ability to make diagnosis that he does not have in this present incarnation, but is unable to provide treatment. He used another spirit to provide the treatment. So he was an intermediary between that angel doctor, as they call, and the one who needed treatment. It was a medium in that case. That's a case that really shows how the two things coexist most of the time. And then in 74, it's also very important that mediumship in general is not dependent of the moral qualities of individual. It's dependent on the organism, as I said in the beginning of that, the organic disposition, okay, to have that seed that for that kind of mediumship, and that kind of mediumship can and should be developed, educated to make good use of it. And it's not dependent on the intellectual or the moral advancement of that individual. You may not be very intellectually bright, you may not have the most developed kinds of moral qualities, and still be very, very ostensive medium. May be very, very ostensive somnambulic individual, able to really expand its perispirits and go deep into the spiritual world, and may be able to retrieve things not that he has as an spirit, but it's not being expressed now. Now, if let's say I have this ability, but I have nothing of good in my in my bag of information, so that as an eternal spirit, what can I retrieve is vulgar, unintelligent things because I'm extremely underdeveloped. Okay, and even if I have some bad ideas, bad intentions that I'm not using this reincarnation, it comes out over there because it's not dependent on my moral qualities. And when it's time to associate with all the spirits, if I normally vibrate at a very low level, associate mostly with ill-intended spirits, when I'm on a somnambulic state, I'm not going to jump from that state to one of high order spirits. I'm going to stay where I belong, where I associate, where I have affinity. It really is a question of affinity here. From affinity is with vulgar, underdeveloped spirits. That's what I'm going to associate with during mediumistic, somnambulic state. Very important to make that, make sure that everybody understand that in order to have the ability of somnambulism or mediumship doesn't mean that I'm eloquently intelligent or I have a higher degree of moral evolution. No, it can happen to any one of us, okay? In order to make good use of it, in order to use this instrument to help us progress, we should elevate our moral qualities to be associated to higher spirits. We closed here. I'm sure there is questions, and please have the question for next month because we went a little
Sunday.
bit time. Next Sunday. Thanks, everyone. Who's there?
Carol is here.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Hi. Will you make
Shall
the
I-
final prayer for us?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for hosting today's session. Topics difficult a bit to comprehend in completion. Thank you, John, for being here. And Philip, thank you also for reading for us today and everyone who is here with us. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together for our studies of the Medium's Book, Part 2, Chapter 14. Gifted seeing mediums have the ability in a normal state. Those with second sight can see spirits with their perispirit faculties, including those who are blind. The occurrence is temporary or through a spontaneous state of trance. Seeing spirits should not be forced and should proceed naturally and be educated by those who have this faculty. Excuse me. Moral growth is an important factor with reasoning and discernment. Somnambulists are in a deep state of trance and beyond the limits of their senses. They act under the influence of their own spirit and soul. They can retrieve knowledge that is unknown to themselves personally. However, frequently it can be joined with mediumship activity and lucidity in various levels, depending on their organic faculties as an instrument of transmission. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, our counselors, our mediums, our workers, and all of our participants. Excuse me. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for those who are experiencing suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center, SGNY, and all spiritist centers throughout the world that they may grow, prosper, expand, and be protected throughout the day and throughout the night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we now go forth and remind ourselves to be beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. May peace and love prevail. So be it.